So hello, everyone. This is our follow-up training on advocacy. I am Dr. Annalynn Schooley, current chair of the Florida Interest Network affiliated with AAMFT, and our honored lobbyist, Dr. Melinda Piller, is here to take us the next step in our advocacy training.
Okay, thank you, Annalynn. And hi, everybody. I'm delighted to see you. I appreciate you coming today. It is a Friday, and so that makes it even more special for all of us to show up. And I welcome questions, but what I would like to do for this particular session is to ask you not to tell us about what isn't happening, because this session is going to be about what is happening. And so typically we get together with folks that are caught in some legislative issues, which we're very well aware of and have been for over a year now. And this is for a session that we're going to share with others electronically. So it's really important to keep on topic and to share what, not necessarily the good news by any means, but to share the legitimate news, things that are actually relevant to your profession and certainly to all of our personal lives. So I wanted to start out with updating you on the current status of the state of Florida and really what is taking priority. And then I will get to marriage and family therapy because I've got some things to share with you for sure. And then we'll talk about getting more folks involved. And I agree with Annalynn, it's great to see professional folks, practitioners, although the students are, students are our foundation and up and coming, no question about it. It's great to see people that have been out there in the field for a long time, because the licensure process is really at risk. So I wanted to update you on redistricting and give you a little bit of background as to why we do redistricting. We are in the process within the next 90 days of starting the redistricting process, which means congressional districts change the way in which they're configured and state legislatures change the way in which they're configured. This happens every 10 years. And after the census, within 2 years after the census, then we look and see how many folks are in your state. This is across the country. Florida's picked up a couple seats legislatively and also on a congressional level because we are growing. As usual, Florida is growing. So this is a very challenging, critical, and unfortunately very polarizing process that we go through. What happens typically is the political party that's in charge, and in this case it's the Republicans, they have a lot more control over that redistricting process. In other words, they could draw lines that would include Republicans or those that would be leaning towards Republican. If Democrats were in charge, they too would have the power to reconfigure the way the state is broken up into districts. What happens 9.5 out of 10 times is that these arguments and these battles on redistricting end up in the courts. And then the courts look at all the options, all the plans that have been drawn, and typically there are a whole bunch of them, and they are presented. And then finally, a court decision will solve the final redistricting event. I wanted to bring that to your attention because that's what we're in currently. So think about that as we think about legislation, if we think about passing bills, or we think about our own individual concerns about a particular issue, is that we are in a complete revamping of the way the legislature is going to approach things and who's going to approach them and who's going to represent you in your district. But that's one thing I wanted to tell you about. The other thing that I thought was very important for y'all to know is on the 15th of November, during a committee week. Let me back up. Committee weeks are the weeks that lead up to the regular session. And in committee weeks, that's when small groups of legislators go through the bills that have been filed. Some of them never make it to committee to even get a look, but those that do, that's the process that takes place. Since we are in this unique year, our legislative session starts in January. Typically, it doesn't start until March, but it starts in January, second week of January this time around, because of redistricting and because of the timing. So committee meetings are critical to getting legislation, proposed legislation heard. The governor has called a special session, and he's called the special session during a committee week, which means we've lost a week. We've lost a week for opportunities for bills to be heard in committee because his session is gospel. Now, the special session he's called, and I have 2 documents. I can upload it, but let me just tell you what it's all about, just a summary. The Governor DeSantis, whether you like him or not, isn't the issue. This is what's happening to the state of Florida. Governor DeSantis has a special session to combat vaccination mandates, to combat any kind of oversight in school districts in regards to vaccinations or in regards to mask wearing. The special session is basically a response to President Biden's mandates, to Florida school district mandates in regards to how their students learn physically face-to-face in school. And so there are a number of issues that he wants to address that are counter to what is happening on federal level and what is happening on the local level. There's some real legal issues here in regards to federal government versus state government versus local government. If you can imagine, this is just nothing but chaos. And if you follow the news, you know that it has caused a great deal of anger on both sides, all sides. It has caused a great deal of financial loss. Lawsuits are flying back and forth from the state to the school districts, from the school districts to the state level, and the feds are involved in it too. So it's a real mess. COVID has created this environment, or at least approaches and attitudes towards COVID. So that is where we currently are. So we're in a redistricting, we're in a slam bam fiasco with mandates or lack of mandates, and it's an election year. So 2022 is an election year, which means that every legislator on the House side is going to be up for re-election because they only have 2-year terms. Now, Senate side, they have 4-year terms, so that there will be not quite as much of a turnover. There are term limits as well, 8 years. So a legislator can run, 4 times? And a senator can run twice. And so all of these things, the purpose of telling you that is things change. Things never stay the same in the Florida legislature. So what causes any group, professional or otherwise, any citizen, professional or otherwise, to have any kind of impact? Well, if you can imagine, as practitioners, having a revolving door in your office where people come in, or you're working in an institution where you're seeing people constantly, and there's one issue after another issue after another issue, following those issues, getting to know those people and understanding their needs is a real challenge, which is why committees are important, because that's a time to really look at things more closely. And that's why advocacy is everything. Because if you're there face to face, whether it's on Zoom, whether it's in person, but if you're there talking about your issues, letting them see and get to know who you are, you got a leg up. It's just that simple. To just hope that they do things for the right reasons, I'm sorry, that's not the real world. It's not how it works. So, any comments or questions about this? No complaints, just comments or questions. I'm open.
I'm going to summarize real quickly. So we have at least 3 or 4 things that make this a very complex political context.
Incredibly volatile.
So redistricting, which is in and of itself pretty distracting. Election year, very distracting. the pandemic and all the reaction to it, very, very distracting. Put all three together, and it's going to be amazing that anything at all gets done. And because of the special session, we have a shorter number of weeks for bills to be heard in committee.
And because the session starts in January as opposed to the middle of March.
So even less time. So we have less time.
So
So the time the committee gets to do their work. And of course, my understanding is every bill has to be reviewed in several committees.
has to be heard in at least one committee on either side, Senate side, House side, or it cannot be heard or
on the floor.
It cannot be voted on the floor.
Voted on the floor, right. And so if we have all this distraction, fewer weeks in which to get bills in front of a committee, the possibility of a bill actually getting to be voted, never mind even just out of committee, is a very big task. But it is an election year, and so they will want to hear from their constituents.
If they're running for election or re-election, yeah, I would think that they would want to. They'd like to not only hear from them, they'd love to get some help from them.
Yes.
And it doesn't always have to be monetary, you know. I told you all about these issues and what's currently happening in the real world here in Florida and across the country, because I wanted to emphasize how fragile your license is, or your potential license. How fragile anybody's certification or license is. It can change within a split second. Parties and majorities and minorities change within a split second. And so because COVID has thrown this other huge blanket on top of a crazy political world to begin with, things are really, really overwhelming. They're overwhelming for legislative staff. They're overwhelming for legislators. They're overwhelming for professional organizations, and certainly overwhelming for citizens who don't want to hear any more about it. They just, you know, we're all just burned out from all of it. So here's some interesting news, and one of the reasons why we're here today. It's to talk about advocacy and to call it training, call it educating, call it just sharing of information and bringing the message to you all and asking you to come on board. And thanks for showing up. We have language in the Department of Health's package, which is 67, I think it's 67 pages. I just looked at it this afternoon. So we're one of many, many practitioners, one of many, many professions that is in this package. We were in it last year. I think we were in it the year before. We have language that is important to all of us for all the different reasons, whether it is accreditation, whether it is in regards to, I think, internships. Yeah, we have telehealth. There are issues that are in the bill that are important to marriage and family therapists, students, interns, practitioners, those that are going to get their license here soon from out of state. So there's important stuff there. On top of that, and we've gone round and round for the last 18 months with schools that feel disenfranchised because of changes that were made in the legislature, and some of you are here now. And I just want to tell you that our biggest concern was that the schools take the lead. The affected schools take the lead. And some of these affected schools are tremendously large, big state universities here in Florida. And unfortunately, last year, they did not take the lead. We were out there making noise, working with our regulatory board, working with their staff, trying to do whatever we could to support all MFTs, especially the ones that were having this difficulty, schools that were having a difficulty without accreditation or who were working on their accreditation. But finally, and happily, the University of South Florida's lobbyist, who I have not had a conversation with, but I've certainly talked to the legislative, the folks that have sponsored this bill, approached the University of South Florida's lobbyist, approached two legislators, Senate and House, in their area. And they have sponsored a standalone bill with the language that matches the language in the Department of Health's bill, that will extend time for accreditation and is more user-friendly for everyone across the board. Now, what does that mean to us? Well, we will support those efforts, obviously. We need to identify what committees, which I have identified the committees that they're going to be moving through, and the legislators that are sitting on those committees. And then we, as a professional group, need to contact those folks and tell them that we support that bill and urge them to vote on it when it does, if it does come up for a vote in committee. And what we need to do first is to find out who your legislators are. And this is a repeat performance from the last time we did a training. Pull out your voter registration card, look at your numbers, and you'll know who is representing you in the Florida legislature. If you are not registered to vote, get registered to vote, call your supervisor of elections, tell them you want to get registered, and tell them where you live, and they'll tell you exactly where your legislative, what district you're in. Then you can get on a very simple link. And we gave that out last time, and we can give that out again, but it's simply online sunshine. That is the Florida legislature's website. And you can easily look up on the Senate side and easily look up on the House side who your legislators are. And that's important for you to know. They may not be your legislators by the end of next year, but right now, those are the folks that are going to vote on these issues. So it's worth spending a little bit of time.
Melinda, can we pause for just a second?
Sure.
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. The Department of Health has this huge bill that has lots and lots of different professions in it.
Right.
And the language that was in it last year is in it again this year.
The language is identical to the standalone bill, and the standalone bill purposely drafted it to match. Yes. And
what is the advantage of having both of those bills out there?
Well, the advantage is 2 vehicles. There's a number of advantages. One is having 2 vehicles, 2 opportunities to get a little bill passed, maybe, or to get the big package passed that has so many professions in it that it really has a lot of push behind it from all different folks, from all different areas and fields. The downside is a standalone bill. That is a challenge. That is a super duper challenge to get a standalone bill passed. The downside for the package is what happened to the Department of Health's package last year, because when they see a vehicle going through that had, in order to be able to amend onto a bill, the amendment has to be germane to that particular bill. And what I mean is it has to come under the same statute. They have to align. So what happened last year, and happens often, is that folks that want to get their bill passed, and if their language is germane to any of the statutes in that big package, they can amend on, or at least they can try to get a legislator to amend on, and that becomes what they call a train. In other words, that 67-page bill becomes a 90-page bill because of all these additional bills that have been amended. And what does that mean? It means more controversy. It means more cons as opposed to pros. And it means that it's so controversial, and towards the end of the session, legislators don't want to touch it because they don't know what's in the darn bill. There's just too much that's been going on. And so they let it die. And that's what happened last year. We were close. We were so close. But people were amending on, and actually marijuana was the biggie. And they just went to town with rules and laws and regulations and all kinds of stuff addressing marijuana, which didn't have a thing to do with what we wanted to get passed. But they found a citation in that package, and they were able to latch on to it. So I hope I answered your question. Probably more information.
You absolutely did, but I think it's the thing is that there's 2 bills, a standalone and a great big Department of Health bill, right, that, as far as MFTs are concerned, has the same language, yes, about extending the schools to have 5 years. Well, it's right, actually not about the schools. It's giving a a time limit out in the future for people to become registered interns without having graduated from an accredited program. That's actually what the language says.
Right.
And what it de facto does is give schools the opportunity to get their accreditation moving. And I'm assuming all of them are. I'm assuming that Carlos Obizu and all the rest have already begun to apply and go through the multi-year process that it takes to get accredited. And that's why the original bill that gave 5 years to the mental health counselors for them to do that, for the schools to get that accreditation. And so we're hoping that this grants that, and then people like Eli, who's with us, will be able to take advantage of that and immediately become a registered marriage and family therapy intern. And actually, Eli and others, you'll get to do both licenses at this point with this change. Melinda, are we going to talk about any of the other the bills that have other language in it, or have the mental health counselors not filed yet?
There is no other bill. There is no other bill at this point. I want to continue. I'm on a roll here, so I want to keep going if I may. But what I did is a quick review of where the committees that the bills have been. So you file a bill, you have it you file language, it goes into bill drafting. Once it's out of bill drafting, then it is assigned to committees to be heard in. Now it's got to be assigned to a number of committees depending on the complexity of the bill. And I will tell you that the Senate bill has been assigned to the Health Policy Committee in the Senate and the Children and Families Committee, which these are very important committees to marriage and family therapists, always have been, always will be, especially the Children, Family, and Elder Affairs is the full name of the committee, and also the rules, because once it gets through those substantive committees, Health Policy, Children, Family, and Elder Affairs, then it will go to rules and be reviewed, and all bills will go to rules and be reviewed. Right now, Senate Bill 566, if you want to look it up on onlinesunshine.gov, SB 566, and just go into, on the Senate side, look at, it'll say session, there'll be a tab at session, click on that and you'll see bills. Bills will come up, the word bills. Click on bills and it'll say Senate, House, you'll have options. I'd go ahead and hit both, Senate and House, or you can just hit Senate, and then you put in that SB 566 into that little box, and that bill will come up. Now, when that bill comes up, you're going to get a PDF option to read it, or you're going to get a web option to read it, and you'll also see that it has similar bills. The similar bills are going to be the House version, which is the exact same bill, and that's HB 343. And you're going to see the Health Department bill because it has similar language. And right now, the Health Department bill only has a Senate bill filed. I'm sure the House version is in drafting, but right now, the only one that's up is the Senate bill. And the department's bill is SB 768. So you want to get to sleep early tonight, open the Department of Health bill. I guarantee it.
You'll be out like a light, huh?
No question about it.
I think you could also jump to page 60 something. 60.
Well, on the department's bill, I think I wrote to you that it was page 67,
Something
and
like
that's
that,
where
yeah.
our language starts. We come right after psychologists. So it'll be psychologists, then it's marriage and family.
And that makes sense because they're 490, we're 491.
Right. It's
So
491.
yeah, that makes sense.
Right. So in the House, the bills, the two committees that the bills are supposed to go through, and let me just say one more thing about Senate side. There are fewer senators on these committees. That's the where to go first. Fewer senators on these committees because there are fewer senators, right? And I will tell you when I finish giving you these little committees, what kind of shape you all are in regards to being constituents. So on the House side, the House Bill 343 has been assigned to professions and public health. Professions and public health. and also to Health and Human Services, those two committees. Right now, the House bill is actually sitting in its first committee, Professions and Public Health. The Senate bill hasn't moved yet. It's just got its assignment, but the House bill is actually in the committee, which means there's a good chance that bill might be heard. At least it's moving.
So it's sort of like on the desk of the committee.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So it's in the room, as it were.
Past assignments, it's moved over to the table. Right.
Okay.
To the table. Now, I want to tell you that I began looking at the House members and the House committees, and there's so many of them, I didn't finish. But a lot of the, before this meeting, but I want to talk to you about the Senate side. And there's a reason for this first. I told you before that there are fewer senators, so the committees are smaller, more manageable to contact those. But the sponsor for the Senate standalone bill is a chairman of the Education Committee, which makes perfect sense for the University of South Florida. It's an ideal sponsor. And when I spoke to the staff yesterday, the staffer was very clear to me that they think this is a critical issue. So a chairman of a committee is going to get more attention than a brand new, just elected House member. So that's a really good thing to know. Chairman of that committee is from the Tampa Bay area.
I was going to say, but that bill has not yet been assigned, or it has been assigned?
It has been assigned. It just hasn't hit the first committee yet.
And it has not been assigned to the Education Committee.
No, it's the committees I just said.
Right. So Children, Family, and Health Policy.
Correct.
Right. So the chair of the Education Committee is the sponsor, but that bill has not been assigned to that person's committee.
It's no.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
It's in the area that they believe, with health, mental health, etc. They didn't look at it as an education piece, even though I see what you're saying. It certainly.
No, I'm not disagreeing. I'm just clarifying.
No, I see what you're saying, because it is an education issue, but this is where they decided.
That's where it went. Okay. So we have a high-powered person in the Education Committee that might talk to the committee members for Children and Family and Health Policy, but we need to go after those committee members, or
absolutely
speak to those committee members. Okay.
Yeah, not go after them. We just need to
speak to them.
We need to build relationships. We need to communicate with them and tell them that we really do need this language and we support their efforts. And we can do that electronically through an email. Phone calls, I can tell you, it took me days to get anyone on a telephone because they're traveling back and forth. Mondays is travel day, Friday is travel day. So the very small window, committees are just jam-packed. And with this special session coming on, they're trying to do as much as they can, as quickly as they can. What I wanted to tell you about, though, is in the Senate and those committees, both committees, Health Policy and Children, Family, and Elder Affairs, there are folks on that committee that are from Miami-Dade. There are legislators from Broward. There are legislators from the Tampa area. There are legislators, one of our former sponsors for our legislation, Torres, from Orlando, Meredith. We've got a good opportunity to communicate with those that actually represent us. Palm Beach area, absolutely, that represent us. You folks right here could get on the email and let me backtrack. So we say, okay, we're going to target in a positive way the Health Policy Committee. So what you're going to do when you get on that online sunshine, you're going to look at committees. There's a tab that says committees, and you click on that and you can go right to their Health Policy Committee, and then click on that and you will show you all of the committee members. And just click on a name and that will give you their contact information. It will give you their district and it'll tell you about them. But I can tell you that we've got friends on that committee. People that would be open to our issues, who have been open to our issues, and who always will be. So a supportive phone call, email would probably help tremendously and help move that bill. And that's our message. Please hear this bill. Please ask for it to be on the agenda, on the committee agenda. Please hear our bill and support it. Yes, Meredith.
Could you talk a bit about the timing of that? Since is it appropriate to go ahead and call and then follow up with a letter or whatever? I mean, that's
absolutely. And at this point, Meredith, I wouldn't worry about snail mail or mail snail or whatever. I just electronically email my agenda. Yeah.
Okay.
Electronic is because think about it. We're on Friday. Next week we have committee.
Mm-hmm.
The following week is special session. So we've lost that week. So yes, the sooner that you could Monday, the sooner that you could write an email, or if you want to write it Sunday night so they open up their emails and they see all these emails on Monday, the better. And we want them to support on the Senate Bill, Senate Bill 566. And on the House side, and the House and the Senate faces on the website are different. They look different, but they're pretty user-friendly. I prefer the Senate just because that's my go-to spot. But the House, you will see up at the tab, if you go on the House side, and you'll see the two different logos, Senate logo, House logo. You go back to the House and then you'll see a representatives, a tab up there. You click on the representative and the way they're displayed is a little bit different because their pictures come up. They like themselves a lot. They're big pictures as compared to the Senate. But it does gives you all the information and how to contact them. And since House Bill 343 is in professions and public health right now, the same message, please agenda and support House Bill 343. Now, this might be our message for the next month. This might be our message for the next 2 months. They will have committee meetings in January. They'll have committee meetings in February. They'll cut off probably late February just because of the special session. It'll go for a good while, maybe even into the first part of March. But it'll be very select committees, not necessarily all these committees that are going to be hearing bills now. It just gets the funnel just gets more and more narrow for bills to flow through. So this is a great opportunity for us to make a little bit of noise and to support these sponsors and to support the bills. The Department of Health bill, I didn't even look to see who the sponsor is. If you give me 2 seconds, talk among yourselves and I'll look real quick. Annalynn.
So what would be great is and this is something I can certainly do, but I think it would be good for everyone who is listening to this and who is in the room today to go through the exercise of looking up who is on the committees for these bills, and then to do the reverse as well, as to find out who your representatives are. So you should have both of those chunks of information. The relationships to build locally for you are the representatives that are for your district. So look up your district and find out who your representatives are. And that's the ones that you want to say, hey, I'm here to help. If you have questions about families and family issues and couples issues and child issues, I'm your go-to person. I'm here to help. That's the building of that kind of relationship. Then we have looking up at the committees, and it doesn't matter whether the representative is in your particular district. We're still going to reach out to them and say that as a Florida mental health provider, we want you to listen to this bill. Am I correct in that, Melinda?
Sure, absolutely. And the sponsor, Senate sponsor for the Department of Health bill is a Republican senator from Miami-Dade and the Keys. So the Miami-Dade, Broward, Palm Beach area, very, very important. But the Tampa Bay area and Orlando is very important too. All those main hubs in the state really carry a lot of strength when it comes to the legislative agenda. I think that I have talked and talked and talked, and hopefully you've gained some kind of insight into what our current situation is. But I also want to leave you all with a plea to reach out to others. And I know Annalynn's going to pick up this torch and go with it in a second, but I have to emphasize that we don't need thousands of people like social workers, and we don't need thousands of people like school teachers. Everybody's got their own issues and everybody's got their own problems. But what we do need is consistency. And what we do need are voices to be heard. So if you could bring along 2, 3, 4, 5 others, practitioners, those that are getting their license, those that need the license, those that are challenged in regards to what's going on right now with schools, and students across the board, that would be a tremendous help, because the people that are actually advocating, that are actually communicating and reaching out to these legislators and their staff, and they depend tremendously on their staff. So don't think you have to hear from that legislator directly. The staff is really, they cover certain bills. They're responsible to educate their legislators. The impact could be tremendous, and we don't have to have thousands of people. But there's opportunity here in a very chaotic time. And that's what I wanted to end with, is to please, we've got some folks here in this meeting that weren't here in the last, and that's terrific. And I know Annalynn uploads this onto the YouTube channel and Facebook, and it's shared. That the more that we can talk among ourselves and together, and the more that we can work in the same direction, the better off we're going to be now and in the future. Because this chaos, some of these processes, they don't go away. They continue. It's the way it is. I think I've said enough.
I think you've done fabulous. And so let me pick up that torch, as you said, Melinda. So if you're hearing my voice, what I ask you to do, if you wish to be an advocate for your profession, and I can't imagine why you wouldn't be, because if we don't advocate for our profession, then we won't have it. And I won't go into all the different threats that there have been to our profession, and there have been many in other states, and there's no reason why it wouldn't come to Florida. Assuming you wish to be an advocate for the marriage and family therapy profession in the state of Florida, what I ask you to do is to share this video and the link that I will be putting out on the YouTube channel with at least 5 other marriage and family therapy people, whether that be your teachers, your colleagues, students that you are teaching, fellow registered interns, the supervisor that you're working with for your licensure process. But if you will pick 5 people to share this with, and then get them to commit to, first of all, getting on our Facebook page, getting on the Florida Interest Network Facebook page, because when the call goes out with the language of what we are wanting, we want a unified message to go out. So get 5 people to listen to this, get them to join the Facebook page, because it costs nothing and you don't have to be a FIN member to be a part of that. And then that way they will get the message when Melinda says, Annalynn, now is the time. Send out between now and this date, this is what we need. I will send it out, and then I want all of those people to react, to make the phone call, to send the email, and we'll help by giving language.
And we have a little script that you can use.
Absolutely. A script for the phone call, and some written up language to use and adapt into your email. But what's important here is that if there are 10 of us on this call, and then each of us have an additional 5 each, that's 60 voices. And if I can push a button on Facebook and 60 people respond, that will make an impact that is really understood. And bonus points if you have reached out to your representatives and made a relationship with them, let them know you're in their community and who you are and what you do and why it's important for them to know you, not for you to know them, for them to know you, why it's important. That's bonus points, so that when the time comes for the vote, when it goes on the floor, is that we can push that as well. So right now our process is getting the bill heard, getting the bill approved to move out of committee, through all the committees that it needs to go through, at least 2, and then onto the floor. So what I'm saying is, between now and the end of season, which is April.
Well, it's a 60-day session, so it's the end of February.
End of February. Gosh. Yeah. So
I don't know. I know the date. It may be the first week of March, but
anyway, it's just the first 60 some odd days
right
at the beginning of the year.
Right.
And so we have a very small window in which to make this felt, depending on where our bills, both of our bills.
Well, that's what I wanted to say. There's 3 bills. There's
right.
3 bills.
And
right
there
now.
will be a 4th.
And there will be a 4th.
There will be a 4th. Right. And so stay tuned to Facebook to see what those numbers are. And even though we're doing this in November of 2021, everything we're saying is going to be valid, except for the bill numbers, for time immemorial. That this is the process, whether we're doing it in 2020 or 2025 or 2045. It's the same process, and it is our efforts. And really, honestly, if Melinda and I give you language, we're talking about a task of about 10 minutes. Because if you've already harvested the email addresses and phone numbers of your representatives and the people on the committee, then you just bang them out. 10, 15 minutes and the task is done. So I want to make this not scary and not think that somehow it's the same as casting your vote. In some ways, it's easier than casting your vote because you know exactly what you want them to vote for. You don't even have to wonder who are those people, who are all these candidates, and do I know anything about them? You know about the bill. You know the language is what we want. And all you have to do is say to those folks, please vote for it. That's what we want.
And one of the things that about this exercise and this process is if you do it now for these 4 bills that'll come up, House and Senate, and your senators are back again, and your House members get reelected, they may be on different committees. They may be in chairmanship positions or vice chair, but the bottom line is they're going to know who you are, and that relationship is building and building and building. So throughout the year, this isn't just a couple of weeks before session. Throughout the year, the goal for marriage and family therapists should be a resource, that you all are a resource for these elected officials. If they have a question about marriage and family therapy, children, individuals, whatever it might be, that they pick up the phone or send you an email and ask what you think. Ask for your opinion. That's the key, because that's what we should be about. The source.
Then we'll know you're in. If you've built a relationship that in your reaching out to them, they get around to reaching back to you.
Always.
That now you know you've got your hooks in them, and that's what's important. Or excuse me, that you're well joined with them.
That's right.
In our therapeutic language, yes. Yeah. And that's what we want. And of course the players keep changing, so we have to keep finding if your representatives are not reelected, then you just start with the new one.
And that's a perfect point. It really takes us full circle, Annalynn, because when I said all these changes are happening and it's this revolving door, but if we are the ones that continue, it's that institutional knowledge. We're the ones that can continue. The players may change, but the process doesn't.
And so we can say, yes, I worked closely with Senator ABC on these kinds of issues. And now that you're in that position, I'm more than happy to work with you. In fact, I look forward to working with you. in some ways, you might actually know more than they do about stuff.
Exactly.
Certainly about what's happening legislatively on issues related to marriage and family. So can I get a pledge from each and every one of you to find 5 people that you'll share this with? Can I get that pledge? Eli's yeah. All right.
Oh,
I've got that
the
pledge.
hands are up. God bless you.
Good. All right. Marcy, do you have at least 5 people that you know or can find? Find students, somebody, so that we can do that.
Cold calls.
Cold calls. Why not? If you make 15 cold calls and get 3 that'll say yes, that's all we're needed.
Marcy, the script is real simple, and you really could make cold phone calls with the script. It'd be very easy to do so. So that don't let not knowing a lot of folks worry you, because it's a script for cold phone calls. Annalynn, I don't know if you want to continue to record this, but if anybody really has questions, we've got a few minutes left.
Sure. If anyone have any questions about this process, as you imagine yourself doing this process, do you have any questions? I'm certainly happy to keep that on the recording, and then we can stop the recording to talk about other stuff as you wish. So anyone have a process question? Yes, Linda.
Yes, I was just going to ask, you talked about the scripts. Where can we get a copy of the script?
So that's where I will post it to the Facebook site, the Florida Interest Network Facebook site. So I will post that. If the only way to get in there is to subscribe to it. So subscribe to it, and then the Facebook message will pop up at you, and you'll see it and then can respond right away. This is assuming you look at Facebook. All righty then. Yes, Dr. Popham.
Is that script going to be posted soon? I know you guys talked about like a timeline and being ready to go, but is that going to be like, in the next day or 2 being posted?
I think that for the purpose, so the scripts will be posted, timeframes will be provided. It will be up to you, however, to look up the phone numbers and emails, and that will be the process.
Okay.